Dear sisters and brothers in Christ, dear participant in this prayer assembly organized by the Conference of European Churches in view of the 11th Assembly of the World Council of Churches in Karlsruhe. Dear friends, allow me to greet you in your official capacity on behalf of the Conference of European Churches. It is a great pleasure, a joy and a gratitude that I welcome you to this meeting, which had been dreamed of organizing in Warsaw, first last year, then this year. And then once again, the pandemic disrupted our plans, forcing us to hold this session with video conferencing support. I want you to know how difficult it is for me, I guess like for you, to be deprived of your immediate presence, of this precious moment of face-to-face meetings and exchange, of these informal times of friendship, communion, and fraternity that represent the coffee breaks, the shared meals, etc. While video conferencing allows us to do our work, it deprives us of what is essential to our communion and bond of fellowship. Our meeting was organized with the aim to offer a space for reflection, sharing, and exchange between European delegates who will participate in the Assembly of the World Council of Churches, scheduled to take place in Karlsruhe from the 31st of August to the 8th September 2022. Its goal, the goal of our meeting, is to prepare the Assembly participants to engage in the life and process of the Assembly, to offer European reflections on question of church and state and church and secularity, and to contribute new insights to the programmatic work of the World Council of Churches in these areas. Therefore, everything has been prepared to examine the theme Christ's love moves the world to reconciliation and unity, to exchange about the realities of our churches, their spirit of unity, their place in plural and secularized societies, their contribution to social and political debate, the challenge of witnessing to the gospel in an environment at times in the grip of strong social, cultural, and religious tensions. Christ's love moves the world to reconciliation and unity, a theme that rose on the very heart of the gospel, that offers to the world the depth and wonder of the love of God. A Christological theme that focuses on the world and recalls God's design of reconciliation and unity. A theme that opens an effective way to the churches to rethink their common call to seek the communion that is a gift of God and his promise, and also to shape their service to the people of the world and to creation. We were very prepared to reflect that theme, but then yesterday morning, the news of the Russian army entry in Ukraine leading the offensive on Kiev overwhelmed us, appalled us, and disheartened us. We had to recognize that's what is steering the world today. We had to recognize, that what is steering the world today, what is setting in motion the political leaders, the actors of civil society, is not so much the love of Christ immediately, but the terrifying noise of the weapons on European soil, a war and its toll of bloodshed, and these on the borders of the European Union. I would like to stress here in these opening remarks that the gospel of Jesus Christ carries a message of peace for all humankind that calls for a deep respect for the human dignity of every human being. This message is rooted in God's mercy, the forgiveness he offers by the gift of himself to everyone who comes to him. This message calls Christians and churches to be artisans of peace and reconciliation. Driven by this call, the Conference of European Churches strongly condemns the act of war that the Russian armed forces have committed in Ukraine. This act is a denial of borders, a denial of the principle of the free determination of the people, and an affront to the international order. KEC calls on all those who have the capacity to act, to contribute to the immediate end of this aggression. At the level of the European Union, the political leaders and the international community, no efforts should be spared to limit the shedding of innocent blood and to return to the path of diplomatic dialogue and international order. The Conference of European Churches calls on all Christians to join together in prayer for peace, for the outcome of this war, for its victims, for those who are working for a peaceful outcome, and for all those who have been and will continue to be affected by it. Evidently, we are all affected by these events, and we felt it was imperative to reorganize our session today in order to offer you this morning a space to receive some information from the Ukrainian churches, in particular also from a planned visit of solidarity and also a call for a prayer for peace envisaged with our partners, the Welcome Union of Reformed Churches and the Lutheran World Federation. We will begin this morning after the introductory prayer with that moment, and we rescheduled and rearranged the rest of the program to both honor each planned period with time reducing, and also we reduced a little bit the lunch break in our time scale. Dear friends, allow me to conclude these greetings with a few words of gratitude to those who have prepared and organized this meeting, and to the partners who are associated with it. Thanks to the member of the planning committee from the IKD, the Protestant Church in Germany, Sabine Udodescu, from the governing board of KEC, Reverend Anne Burkhardt, now General Secretary of the Lutheran World Federation and no longer member of the governing board, the Very Reverend Archimandrit Nectarius Iohannou from the Church of Cyprus, Peter Kratoshvili from Prague, and His Grace Bishop Joachim Manoukian from the Armenian Apostolic Church based in London. And also from our KEC office in that preparatory team, our General Secretary, Dr. Johan Skov Sørensen, and our executive staff, Secretary for Theological Dialogue, Katrina Peklu, you have on the screen. Our gratitude goes also to the World Council of Churches and the Karlsruhe local office for their support, to the Polish Ecumenical Council for their cooperation, for their will to host us, in particular the president of the Polish Ecumenical Council, Bishop Andrzej Maliki, you already heard, and the director, Reverend Dr. Gregor Giemniac. I hope the spelling is right. Gratitude also to Archbishop Emeritus Andres Bayrit, President of the Europe of the World Council of Churches, and Dr. Benjamin Simon, World Council of Churches Executive Staff for Church Relation. Both provided a very precious guidance during the planning of this meeting. And I would like to thank in advance the group of listeners who work behind the scene today and tomorrow to produce a report for this assembly or pre-assembly, namely Reverend Serge Fornero, Reverend Dr. Hanna Tonzarova, Mrs. Maria Muntraki, Mrs. Miriam Weiby, and Reverend Matthew Ross from the World Council of Churches. I conclude in looking forward for a stimulating and inspiring dialogue during this European Regional Pre-Assembly. I hope we will have a blessed meeting produced with a productive outcome meaningful for the 11th Assembly of the World Council of Churches in Karlsruhe. Thank you for your attention.